Hi, my name is Arthur and welcome to Celestial Wellbeing. So the next word I've chosen is trust. Now I've had this word on my mind for days and days, and it's a really interesting one, and I've kind of realized in order to truly trust, you need to forget about trust. So before I get into that and how, that somehow makes sense, then let's look at the word trust itself. So the word trust, a firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of someone or something. Yeah, so we're putting our trust into someone or something. So I suppose there's two really interesting sides around trust. Like most words I've been exploring, there's an internal trust, and then there's a very external trust. So I see detriments to both sides, internal and external, because if we put a trust externally, it's a very projecting thing, and there's a lot of things around trust that we have expectations for, and our expectations can be easily broken. So we're kind of setting ourselves up for disaster by trusting. So let's break it down a bit. So if we look at the word trust itself, there's a lot of hooks attached to that word, yeah? And there's a lot of other words around trust that we can easily associate with trust. And it could be things like being lied to, being cheated, being manipulated, being emotionally hurt, being physically hurt. The way we relate trust in relationships. Yeah, there's a lot of expectation around our partners in relationships concerning trust. And so how often do we find ourselves already premeditating a possible outcome if our trust is broken? Yeah, so it's really heavy in the sense that by using trust and putting ourselves into trust, that we're creating possible outcomes. So let's say, a real horrid one, you're in a relationship and you trust your partner that much that they're not going to cheat on you. However, if they were going to cheat on you, you already have these possible outcomes created, rather than just going with the flow of it and then dealing with situations as they arise. When we put trust into these things, we can really use it against people, yeah? How could you do that to me? I trusted you. I put all my trust into you, and you've done this to me. How could you when I trusted you? Yeah, and that's how we seem to use the word trust. Now, why do we use the word like that? And I have an interesting theory that I'm going to put out there, because I believe the word trust. So, well, let's start with a person. Oops. Yeah. And so that's our energetic field, and that's our being. But then the moment we introduce trust, we've added its own entity. It's got its own energy, yeah? Because from our heart space and from our mind, we start creating possible hooks, possible outcomes that will come with our trust. Yeah? So whatever they are to you, they're all very personal. And so you've got all these possible outcomes. So what you're actually doing in your energetic field, you're actually projecting all of these possible outcomes. So out of all these possible outcomes, one of these is going to occur. Maybe none of them, yeah? And so that can be the relief component. That can be the relief component of trust, where you actually made it through your trust. And so you've got all these possible outcomes that's in between your heart and your mind, yeah? Because you've put all your energy into trust, but that trust has so many hooks attached to it. There's so many possible outcomes that could occur. Now, what's happening with these possible outcomes is you've already created possible reactions, yeah? So you have a reaction for this one, you have a reaction for that one, a reaction for that one, a reaction for that one. If my partner does this wrong thing by me, I'm going to burn because they've broken my trust, and like it's really full on. So like I said at the start of the video, in order to really trust, you need to remove trust from you. And then you don't have any of these anymore, yeah? Now you're able to just go with the flow. You can be a being, and a situation arises at whatever phase in your being, and then you deal with it then. Yeah, so you're not creating. What you're actually creating is a flow. Yeah, you're standing more in your being. And a lot of times what people will do is they'll create boundaries in areas they don't want to get hurt. But then by creating those boundaries, you know, they're actually preventing things from coming as well. So I'll do a separate one on boundaries, but it's very similar. And now the funny thing is, with the word trust, there's also a legal term for trust, and a trust in the legal sense becomes its own entity. It's a completely legitimate, non-flesh living entity, yeah, that can be created. Now within this trust, it already has a set of rules for the way things are going to happen. So let's say it's a family trust, and it's all the money is in the trust. Now certain things need to happen before that money is directed to its members. So similar to an etheric sense, right? When we put our energy into trust, we're creating a non-human living entity, right? And we have possible outcomes created, or certain things need to happen in order for certain outcomes to occur. And it's pretty much the same concept. And what I find really interesting about that is how similar they actually are. And when I like to talk about entities quite a lot, and for me this is an example of how a living entity actually exists. They're not always demons and angels and horrific and these kinds of things. You know, they're amongst us. Yes, they're on paper, but it still has its own rights. It still has its own say. It still has everything another living human being has, but it's only written, right? But it is a living entity. And so, going back to trust itself in the physical sense, in order to truly trust, you have to give away your concept of trust, and you have to break any contracts you have put into trust. So something you can do, and this will sound really strange, but what you can do is say out loud or say in your mind, you know, trust, I break all contracts I have created with you. Leave me now. Like, actually treat it like a living thing or a separate thing to you. You know, tell it to just go. You don't want it anymore. You don't need it. You do not want it. Allow yourself to be free of these hooks, and allow yourself to be free of possible outcomes that you're creating so innocently. Like, you don't know you're doing it. And a lot of this has been taught to us as well. We see it in movies, we see it in TV, we've seen it through our peers, through our parents. You know, you can't trust anybody on the street. You can't do this, you can't do that. Well, if you went out and you got hurt, I told you so. Like, come on, give me a break. You know, how's the world supposed to learn trust and become trust if we can't be trust? Yeah, we don't want to outward trust, we want to be trust. We don't want to blame our lack of trust on people when they hurt us. We just want to be. Give away trust. So I hope that's helped, and I try to take really complicated things and try to simplify them as best as I can. But put some thought into it, you know, take some time and really see what trust means to you. You know, is it to your benefit or is it to your detriment? Like even I hear a lot of people say, you know, when it comes to projecting things around the universe, you know, like the universe is going to teach you these lessons and these things are going to keep reoccurring. Well, yeah, they are going to keep reoccurring. And I assure you, your body and the universe doesn't care about your intention, but it cares about what you project. So if you're projecting trust to the world, but you have hooks and possible consequences, well, the universe is going to give you that, because the universe doesn't care, you know, if you want to hurt yourself or if you want to grow. It doesn't care. It doesn't care about how strong your intention actually is. What it cares about is the truth you project. Yeah? And it's the same with our bodies. Our bodies are so resilient, it doesn't care how we treat it, but it's going to do everything possible to keep you alive for as long as possible. You can treat it poorly, you can treat it well, it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. There's no, my intention is so strong. You know, and even with your intention, you're projecting your intention. You're not being the intention. So, something to think about. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that and have a great day. Thank you.